dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back on Liberty Nation Radio. I remain Mark Angelides, and we're continuing our conversation with Liberty Nation's national security correspondent, Dave Patterson. So, Dave, thanks for sticking around. Earlier in the show, we discussed what happened with Nicolas Maduro, what the president of Venezuela wants removed, if that works. But I'd like to talk about what's going to happen in Venezuela and in America and Washington, D.C. in particular for going forward, because Donald Trump discussed quite widely that the people on the podium with him when he made the announcement last week were essentially going to be running Venezuela until such time as a functioning government could be put in place. So there's a lot of accusations, rightly or wrongly, of nation building here. What's your take?
Well, I think that the Trump administration is going to try to avoid nation building. I mean, as best as they can, and I think that they're more than happy to let those elements of the government that can and should be, keeping the lights on, keeping the water running, and the trash picked up. And I think though that the real problem that they're going to have is the resistance from you've got Hezbollah, setting up camp in Margarita Island, and you have the drug cartel run by the military. And so you've got a lot of things, and you got Iran and Russia and China and Cuba that has 15 to 20,000 Cubans in Venezuela, with 500 Cubans estimated to be training the army and the armed forces. So there are a lot of sticky wickets here.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a clearinghouse for it's become a clearinghouse for the worst of the worst on the international stage. As you say, that like Iran's got involvement there, Hezbollah's in there, there's Cuban, I'm doing the air quotes, revolutionaries in there training Venezuelan soldiers. What for? It's almost certainly city-based guerrilla warfare, and whether that's going to be just on the streets of Venezuela, that remains to be seen. So this isn't a one and done shot really for the Trump administration, is it? Because there's all these tentacles, and as you say, the military are actually controlling, or at least benefiting substantially from the drug trade. How just taking one head off the Hydra here doesn't really work, does it?
No, because it's a good and apt generalization. Yeah, it is a Hydra. I mean, you cut one head off, two more grow, and so it's going to take a real clever and sophisticated effort, I think, to bring Venezuela back to its former self. Now, there's the advantage here is that Venezuela has a history and a legacy of being a democratic country, and so they know how to do it. And for the last couple of decades, they've had a problem. But I think that unlike others, unlike Afghanistan or Iraq, which had no history of democracy or that kind of government, Venezuela does. And I think that the United States is going to be relying on that legacy quite a bit.
Okay, and is there much that, let's call it critics of this, national critics of Trump's move, for example, Russia, Iran, China, is there much they can do to intervene in whatever happens there in Venezuela?
I think that for the most part they'll be on the outside yelling epithets. I think there's not very much, because one of the things that has become very clear, and that is when Donald Trump says he's going to do something, he does it. I mean, he doesn't chat about it, and and do studies and have focus groups.
This focus group diplomacy, yeah.
and, and I think that if the world hadn't taken note of this before, I mean, they certainly have to now. And I think it's establishing what has become known as the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine.
Sure, yeah, he calls it the Donroe Doctrine. Right?
Yeah, the Donroe Doctrine. I mean, you're not going to mess around in the Western Hemisphere and put the United States' interests at risk. You're just not going to do that, and we're not going to allow it.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating, isn't it? Because the Monroe Doctrine, 1823, so it's over 200 years old. Is it? Now that was designed to keep European powers from interfering in what's happening. So it's spread a little further south, and it's become more of a, as you say, a Western Hemisphere approach. And I think the
primarily Spain, right?
Yeah, the keen-eyed and eared political followers will have noticed that for the first time, at least in my lifetime, that there's very much a talk about Western Hemisphere is our domain, right? This impacts us. That's you. Western Hemisphere is our domain, and there's got to be some. It's not necessarily cooperation, but there's got to at least be what's the right way of saying this? No backstabbing and no snide attempts to try and undermine U.S. authority, especially within the United States. Now, does this mean that? I mean, would you say that the Venezuela extraction of Maduro fits within the Monroe Doctrine?
Oh, I think so. I think that that in its loosest interpretation, I think that it does, and in as much as all of these,
not geographically necessarily,
but all of these other countries that have been meddling and particularly China in Central and South America. I mean, their tentacles have become really very strong and many, and it's like I say, it's going to be fascinating to see how a new Venezuelan government, with the help of Donald Trump, will deal with these, particularly Hezbollah. Hezbollah concerns me because they've been there for in South America, they've been there for about 30 years and doing nothing but mischief. And I mean, they're a terrorist organization, for heaven's sakes. We can't have that, in so close to the United States with
their own island, by the way.
With their own, basically, yeah, exactly. Their own island, a training ground for terrorism, and I'm surprised we didn't have a kind of an errant bomb takeouts of Hezbollah just for good measure.
Yeah. Oops. We just one of our missiles went astray.
And for the most part, from just on that point, from what I can gather, is that the suppression of enemy air defense, SEAD operation, was very, very successful.
Yeah,
nothing could come up.
Yeah, it really does show the capabilities of the United States when it's willing to use them, whether that's right or wrong. But the capabilities are, I think, unquestionably top tier in the world. So, final question for you, Dave. In light of what's happened with Nicolas Maduro, do you think that Kim Jong-un is sweating right now more than usual?
I don't think so. I mean, he might be. I mean, all dictators have the problem of paranoia, but because I mean, there's no reason to. I mean, really. I mean, okay, you're a nuclear nation now, and Trump recognized him. Of course, he's a nuclear nation. He's got nuclear weapons. I mean,
it's definitionally correct, even if not politically, as the.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, you look at the kind of protection that would be really tough in North Korea.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Dear Leader Kim Jong-un, you're safe for a little while. Dave Patterson, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Happy to be with you.
And that's all we have time for on this week's edition of Liberty Nation Radiohead, coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I've been your host, Mark Angelides. I'd like to thank our guests, Andrew Moran and Dave Patterson. And of course, thank you, the listeners, for taking the time to join us. Please remember, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation. This presentation is no endorsement.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.